Welcome back. Great album, closing tracks. Opening tracks are hugely important, but so are closing tracks, right? Albums go through moods, and that closing track is the final word, so to speak. That's what determines the feeling you're left with. A closing track can shift the entire mood of a record. One that immediately springs to mind just because I recently covered it on my double albums video. Think of the Beatles' White Album. We go through the insanity of Revolution number 9, a harrowing experience, and then they leave us with the sweet lullaby Good Night, sung by Ringo. Before we get rolling, the usual stuff, please consider a financial contribution through Buy Me a Coffee or PayPal, links in the description. Like, subscribe, share, all of that stuff. We're creeping up on 2,000 subscribers, which is cool. Not moving as quickly as I would like it to, but hey, it is what it is. 'Cause I love you. Yes, I love you. Gazing at people. This will be the first time I have featured the Moody Blues on this channel, and that's a great thing. I always like to expand the artists and groups that I'm covering. This tune was written by Justin Hayward, who was the group's guitarist and essentially frontman from the period of about 1967 to 1974. Nights in White Satin is of course taken from the Days of Future Past album, often regarded as one of the first progressive rock albums and one of the first rock concept albums. And that's what makes this such a special closing track. The album is a song cycle that represents the various stages of the day. We, of course, start with the morning, we have the dawn, and then we move on to sections like lunch break, the afternoon, all culminating in this track, which represents the nighttime. The title of the tune came when Hayward's girlfriend gave him a gift of satin bed sheets. But according to Hayward, the deeper meaning is the song is about the ending of one big love affair and the beginning of another. The song concludes with some spoken word verse written by drummer Graham Edge and recited by keyboardist Mike Pinder, who also provides the incredible moody mellotron that's a big part of this tune, as well as the album's other big hit, Tuesday Afternoon. The spoken word section is titled Late Lament. Technically, it's a whole separate piece, which is really what closes the album, but the two are generally lumped together, and that's what I'm doing for my analysis here. Now, anytime you have a spoken word section in a rock and roll tune, you run the risk of getting a bit spinal tappy.
In ancient times, hundreds of years before the dawn of history, lived an ancient race of people, the Druids.
But I think this is actually quite nice, albeit quite dark. Breathe deep the gathering gloom. Watch lights fade from every room. Bedsit people look back and lament. Another day's useless energy spent. This song is in the key of E minor, but it's got a few interesting surprises. Of course, it starts off on E minor, the 1 chord. D is the 7 chord. C is the 6 chord. G major is the 3 chord. And here's the first surprise, F leading back to the 1 chord, E minor. So that F chord is what's sometimes referred to as a Neapolitan chord. It's used a lot in classical music. It's a flat 2, right? If we're in E minor, F is the flat 2. So that's a Phrygian cadence, right? But we would not say this is in Phrygian mode at all because it's just that brief F chord there. again called a Neapolitan chord. I suppose we could also analyze that as a flat 5 substitution. In E minor, the 5 chord would be B7, B minor or B7. Let's go with B7. And we could look at F as the flat 5 substitution. F is the flatted 5th of B, so you stick that chord in there in place of the usual 5 chord. So we could have had letters I've written, never meaning to send. That would have worked fine. I suppose that would have been the more typical thing, having the 5 resolved to the 1. But as it is, it's got sort of a longing to it. I love that flat 2 chord. Letters I've written, never meaning to send. Much better that way. I also love the A major chord that takes us into the chorus. We go from E minor to the A. 'Cause I love you. That's a real vibe right there. That's actually a Dorian cadence going from 1 to a major 4, but then we get right back into the natural minor key with our C chord. Nights in white satin, never reaching the end. Letters I've written, never meaning to send. Beauty I'd always missed with these eyes before. And just what the truth is, can't say anymore. 'Cause I love you. Yes, I love you. Oh, how I love
you. Thousand lovers pick their prey, but they never cry out loud. Cry out. Well, did she make you cry? Make you break down, shatter your illusions of love. And is it over now? Do you know how? Pick up the pieces and go home.
Gold Dust Woman was written by Stevie Nicks and is the closing track to Fleetwood Mac's phenomenal Rumors album. Now, Rumors is an album of many moods. We've got things like Go Your Own Way, Lindsey Buckingham just wailing his heart out about his relationship with Nicks, which was coming to a close. But yet we've got some positivity, tunes like Don't Stop with its eternal optimism, and You Make Lovin' Fun, which is about a new love affair. You'll notice the Christine McVie songs tend to be the positive ones. She was great at that. She's one of the few rock/pop artists who can make happy, optimistic songs that don't come across as corny. But Stevie ends the album on a decidedly ominous note with Gold Dust Woman. A lot of it has to do with the music and the arrangement. Much of the song is based around 2 chords. We have a D add 9 to a D augmented. We take the D chord, raise the 5th a half step, we get a D augmented, which is very mysterious. And the D add 9 chord, because it lacks a 3rd, that 3rd is replaced by the 9th. We don't know whether it's major or minor, it's ambiguous. Now, when Stevie comes in with the vocal, though, in the verse, she makes it clear that it's a minor feel. Her melody really hits on that flatted 3rd a lot. It's F. Rock on, gold dust woman, take your silver spoon and dig your grave. She really hammers on that flatted third. And I love what the chords do in the chorus. They go to a B flat, and the progression is essentially B flat to G to C to D, which is nice enough, but I love the way they create this climbing effect from the B flat. Instead of going to a root position G, it's a G with a B on the bass. So the bass climbs chromatically. Listen. And then it climbs again into the C and again into the D. So much better that way. And there are all kinds of instrumental and production elements that add to the mood. You've got that long fade out with Stevie seemingly wailing from afar about pale shadows, black widows, and dragons. You've got the cowbell from Mick Fleetwood. That was a really nice touch. You've got a dobro added by Lindsey Buckingham. Supposedly there's an electric harpsichord in there somewhere. And at some point they even added in the sound of Mick Fleetwood smashing panes of glass with a hammer. Apparently he was in the studio wearing overalls and goggles and just bashing away at the things. Based on interviews with Stevie that I've seen, there are two main inspirations for these lyrics. Number one, it was partially about groupies. Apparently there were young women who would hang around the band, flashing dirty looks at Stevie and Christine, and turning very sweet whenever a man entered the room. Somehow this all doesn't surprise me. And number two, it was about cocaine. That's what the gold dust of the title refers to. Apparently Stevie was not that into cocaine yet by this point, but she was kind of fascinated by it and began to realize that it could take over a person's life, although she said she never thought it would happen to her. But anybody that's even casually followed the careers of Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac as a whole know that that's precisely what happened. Within the next few years, several of the band's members spiraled deeply into drug and alcohol addiction. There were many infidelities and just general sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And while I certainly don't think it was intentional, in retrospect, I see this great closing track as a chilling foreboding of the direction that Stevie's life was just about to take, and I think that makes it all the more impactful. We get some of Stevie's greatest lines here. Rock on, gold dust woman, take your silver spoon and dig your grave. I love the double meaning there, the silver spoon representing, of course, drug paraphernalia, as well as being born into privilege. And the next line is also a killer. Heartless challenge, pick your path and I'll pray. That last line is so good. I mean, that's pretty much what all of us do in life. You pick your path and you pray, whether it's literally or figuratively. You hope for the best. Rock on, gold dust woman. Take your silver spoon, dig your grave. Heartless challenge, pick your path and I'll pray. Wake up in the morning, see your sunrise, loves to go down. Lousy lovers pick their prey, but they never cry out loud. Cry out. Well, did she make you cry? Make you break down, shout riding your running
When the priest comes to read me the last rites, take a look through the bars of the last sites of a world that has gone very wrong for me. Can it be?
It's not often that you will encounter an album closing track that will literally make you ponder your own mortality, but Hallowed Be Thy Name from the Number of the Beast album, still Iron Maiden's best album by far, in my humble opinion, is just such a track. Written by Maiden bassist Steve Harris, who has long been the band's most prolific songwriter, it chronicles the sad tale of a condemned man as he sits in his cell while dawn is breaking on the morning of his execution. Maiden's lyrics and imagery often have a tendency to get a bit cartoonish, right? And that's great. We love it. It's a lot of fun. But this is something else altogether. These have got to be Maiden's most philosophical lyrics. The song has long been a fan favorite and a favorite of the band itself. It's regularly performed in concert, and several members have stated that it's their favorite Maiden song. Singer Bruce Dickinson said it's fantastic, and that performing it live is like narrating a movie to the audience. We start off very quietly with a Baroque/Renaissance sounding guitar part. It's harmonized in thirds. We've got a G here on the bottom and a B on top, but in fact, it's not just a third apart, it's an octave and a third apart. That's called a compound interval. We might even refer to it as a tenth, and that really affects the sound, I think, in a good way here. This is key of E minor. It works its way down the scale. I'm waiting in my cold cell when the bell begins to chime, reflecting on my past life, and it doesn't have much time, 'cause at 5 o'clock they take me to the gallows pole. The sands of time for me are running low. So as you've just heard, the intro lays out the scene quite vividly, and it goes on. When the priest comes to read me the last rites, take a look through the bars at the last sights of a world that has gone very wrong for me. Can it be that there's some sort of error? Hard to stop the surmounting terror? Is it really the end, not some crazy dream? One of the things I really like about these lyrics is when we listen, we can't help but put ourselves into this position. And I think Harris does a great job of capturing the feelings that we would all likely feel in this scenario. The narrator appears to be a man of faith, and as the song progresses, his faith is severely tested, as one might expect. He becomes increasingly philosophical. Somebody please tell me that I'm dreaming. It's not easy to stop from screaming, but words escape me when I try to speak. Tears fall, but why am I crying? After all, I'm not afraid of dying. Don't I believe that there never is an end? Another interesting element here, we never actually find out what crime this man is dying for, and for that matter, we wonder if he might even have been wrongly imprisoned. Perhaps he was innocent the whole time, and that certainly adds food for thought. But either way, the execution continues apace. As the guards march me out to the courtyard, Somebody cries from a cell, God be with you. I thought that was nice, just a little bit of humanity there in the horrible proceedings. If there's a God, why has he let me go? As I walk, my life drifts before me, and though the end is near, I'm not sorry. Catch my soul, it's willing to fly away. By the final verse, the narrator seems to have accepted his fate, and his soul seems to be at peace. Mark my words, believe my soul lives on. Don't worry now that I have gone. I've gone beyond to seek the truth. He's now looking forward to the next life. When you know that your time is close at hand, maybe then you'll begin to understand life down here is just a strange illusion. Wow, what a way to end an album. After all these years, I can't listen to this song without thinking seriously about my life and what I'm doing with it and the meaning of it all. And that's never a bad thing.